Hello, I'm the Deer Runner, and in this analysis video, I'll be showing my theory that the character Toga in the My Hero Academia series, who's said to be a psychokiller that is driven by sexual desires, is actually not this, but instead is someone who took that persona to infiltrate the League of Villains in a way to give it the most access to what she actually wants. I'll be breaking through her lies by showing her actions do have extreme levels of hidden strategic value. I will also go through the great deal of manipulation she has done to get a stronger position in a League of Villains while preventing innocent people's deaths, which by the end her motives will have shown to turn towards trying to steal All for One from the League of Villains after she learns of that incredible attainable power. And lastly, her shape-shifting powers has weakness that basically has her have a default face that blocks all emotions, which in a Toga form is a smiling face that if the emotion is forced or is strong enough, can distort her smile and break through completely, but if controlled can look very natural. This will contain spoilers for the My Hero Academia series. This is your final spoiler warning. There are many things I will go through that without the shape-shifting weakness had already made her highly suspicious. Toga came to Shigaraki to be recruited by a man who didn't give any concrete evidence on screen to support her claim of being the infamous Psychokiller that was at large. Though Toga acted completely insane in a way that would make you believe she is a real deal, she got in a surprising 0 kill count when it comes to innocent people, which meant she had not proven at any point she'd be willing to kill innocent people. This is made much worse as Toga's quirk is a shape-shifting power called Transform. The limits of this power has not been revealed, but it has been shown she can easily maintain forms of other people she ingests blood from for an indeterminate amount of time, which could be as long or longer than several days, and even use her quirks to an unknown extent. Having a base level be that she can basically perfectly copy most people's physical state, which that statement does not have any knowledge of impact of significant size difference, allowing her to have done almost anything up to this point in the body of almost anyone she needs to get anything she wants, and even use her own quirks to almost completely every time if there's any question, demonstrates superpowers only thought to be only available to the one she is impersonating. With this powerful level of shapeshifting being her base level, and she talked about an extreme level of mental control training that can be used to disrupt anyone who tries to use the power to scan her mental state for information, this leaves no one with any way to see through her disguise as long as the one she is impersonating is compatible with her power and she gains all needed information beforehand to not raise suspicion. She could have a realistic chance to betray anyone then leave without any way to retaliate against her as she pursues plenty of other plans. She could set up prior or make new ones immediately. So when she seemed to act a part but not prove to the League of Villains she'd be willing to kill innocents by failing to kill innocent people, she definitely never did confirm she was a lone psychokiller that's been wanted for those string of blood-draining murders. Therefore potentially is faking her loyalty and planning to backstab with very little chance of any effective retaliation. Her quirk blood ingesting focus and urges to drink blood made by her quirk doesn't prove she did the blood-draining murders, and if she wanted to impersonate a killer, choosing one with some type of blood obsession like the one in blood-draining murders would be the ideal, as that killer's psychotic desires can be more easily faked with already their natural behavior. There was no physical evidence presented that proved Toga was the killer, only her potentially false admission of guilt. Though Toga was shown next to a lot of blood and what seemed to be one dead person sometime before she tried to join the League of Villains, according to the records, only one killer was involved in those murders. That dead person could be that killer. Not having the killer around makes things a lot more stable, as it is hard to explain why more victims keep appearing when she was shown she can't have been there. And the cute Toga behavior shown at the time, well, I did say there's a default face that we haven't gone into yet, that will, according to my theory, that act due to it was a smile, the real emotion wasn't able to reach through, but you looking at her quivering eyes, this could be a sign of an unrelated emotion trying to get through. And with her physical pose didn't match when she was faced with the unexpected thousands dead and the potential imminent capture in the Kamino ward, which she showed extreme distress. This could be the same emotion, but her mask had been able to stay on this time when she killed the real blood-draining killer. Toga demonstrated and bragged about an incredible level of combat training, which included extreme mental control that will be extremely important for infiltrating, as there are people that can directly delve into your mind and search for answers. So true infiltrating would require the level of mental control she discussed, but that is not something you can just teach yourself. There had to have been an extremely skilled group behind her training. And clearly, she has shown an extremely high level of skills with knives and stealth skills that are not something that should at all be expected to be self-taught from someone with mental problems Toga claims she has. Even a normal or very smart person shouldn't have been able to get those skills on their own as well. Toga had in the past disappeared at a very suspicious point near the end of middle school. All the top-of-the-line hero courses and mainstream training that is done is geared toward training kids entering high school, basically around the point she disappeared. All the top-of-the-line training for superpowers would follow this model because not only it works, it is the most successful, most carefully studied, and carefully crafted type of training in the society. Toga had to have some skilled group behind her to explain her skills, and she disappeared at around the age when training is normally implemented. Within 1 year, the improvements to the Class 1A students was tremendous, so Toga starting earlier could have allowed enough time to go by for her training to reach the level that is demonstrated. Training also may have implemented before her disappearance, as a circumstance around the disappearance had everyone report they didn't see this coming. Therefore, the ones who knows may have been interacting with Toga in secret for a long time. And likely the case for how much Toga is going for infiltrating the League of Villains with the signs that someone's behind her seems to be very loyal, which a sudden against her will kidnapping that would have disrupted this level of loyalty could not have happened. With Toga parents also trying to suppress her natural blood-drinking urges from a quirk that was demonstrated causes stress in the form of symbolic massacre on her face when showing she growing up suppressing her urges, she was likely not taking this well, and some group learning of her incredible, unprecedented, useful infiltrating potential from a quirk could have given her a much-desired alternate to her previous life. A large group behind her would also explain how to track down a real blood-draining killer to take this person's place. Looking over the details of Toga's disappearance, in which Toga suddenly gave in to her blood-drinking urges and attacked one of her classmates and ran from the law, does support all this. First, why after all those years of suppressing those urges did she give in? Simply looking at what happened shows it. Toga managing to evade a law enforcement and immediately trained by an advanced group would have been most likely done if the group was already there in her life encouraging her to join them, which made her face her blood-drinking urges, which had untreated suppression of those urges causing massive mental strain would likely cause a sudden mental reaction with how disrupted her upbringing was, causing the incident in the first place that they rescued her from. Toga's loyalty to this group is also indicated to be strong from this. By looking over the information again, Toga didn't really face any significant legal ramifications from this. Since there was no report of murder and this was highly known to a lot of people, the classmate survived, but even a charge of assault would not have been able to be used on Toga. With the amount of human-animal hybrids and other mental disruptive quirks, it is clear that this society would have set up special child care programs to support children who need support to be in society due to their quirks. With Toga's quirk being blood drinking and it was blood drinking crime, it would obviously to law enforcement indicate that this may have been due to Toga's quirk. And with her parents and Toga herself will likely acknowledge they spotted this and suppressed it, Toga would simply be sent to much needed counseling and potentially her parents may be charged with something as they didn't let Toga get well-established child counseling from a mentally disrupted quirk. I think that this is very straightforward, so Toga likely knows this. Since Toga remains with the obviously illegal group with how they unlawfully recruited her, it shows how loyal Toga got to this group, and how she went about destroying the possibilities of being let back into society by taking credit for the crimes of the Psychokiller for the group she is secretly a part of. Also shows she is willing to do anything for this group as she actually destroys her path to rejoin society to support the group she had become a part of. The people that Toga killed in this story were all really bad people. There were several religious fanatics in the Creation and Rejection clan that tried to kill any of the human-animal hybrids and other significantly physically altered people as they considered them to be an abomination. She also had Shigaraki, the leader of the League of Villains, the group she is infiltrating, telling her to do it, which to maintain her cover of being a Psychokiller, Toga definitely had to kill those really bad people that if left alive would have likely killed many other people. The other group she killed was led by Chitose in the Liberation Army, who was a villain that was actually a psychotic journalist who was obsessed with Toga and seemed to not be interested in the rest of the League of Villains, indicating that something about Toga caught her eye. Chitose had interviewed people from Toga's past and death and was obsessively digging for information. This, for the potential double agent Toga, would be the most alarming thing she could possibly face if Toga is truly not who she says she is. There was always a trail to follow, and if anyone would have figured out Toga is not a Psychokiller, it was going to be the very competent Chitose with how in-depth her investigation of Toga was. However, how Chitose singled out Toga to be investigated out of all the League of Villains indicated Chitose may have found something already. So clearly, if Toga is not who she says she is, eliminating Chitose would be needed to maintain her cover. Since all Chitose's subordinates were okay with Chitose actively killing off her subordinates during the fight with her vicious quirk that makes them explode, what Chitose did do to harm Toga, and with the destruction this group of the Liberation Army has done, it was clear, like the last time, if Toga let any of them live, more innocents would die, and would also end Toga's infiltration. This time, instead, with the Toga's own death, with a potentially need to be destroyed successful investigation of Toga. So the list of people Toga killed, if we assume the first kill was a real blood-draining murderer, were people that are extremely likely to actively slaughter innocents. Therefore, Toga may be trying to avoid innocent people's deaths, and has been successfully avoiding killing innocents so far. When it was revealed Toga was actually impersonating Kami in Season 3, it was more than just a surprise. It flat out contradicted what I knew of Toga at the time. Toga had shown no ability to control her emotions, and the sheer level of deception she pulled off over extreme amounts of time controlling her emotions contradicted her psychotic state she has had throughout the series. Adding on all the skills she demonstrated and bragged about made it clear this villain was definitely not just some psychokiller that just so happened to start killing with no plan, and she looks to have been trained intensely. But the point that finally revealed who she truly was came from a weakness I spotted in her shape-shifting ability. I noticed an uncomfortable amount of lingering emotions on Toga's face when she impersonated the other two people, Kami and Uraraka, for a period of time. But Toga's normal persona also had a lingering emotion of happiness on her face. I decided to, while trying to figure her out, ask the question, could this be some type of weakness that when shapeshifting into someone, a default face is there that her true emotions, if strong enough, can break through the mask? After I pursued this question, dismissing the persistent face as a normal, non-strong emotional state and just counting the facial expressions that were not happy as by being genuine, it clearly showed me, combined with her inconsistencies, that the emotion list made was not random, but in fact was a true Toga underneath the mask, which included her happy default face contorting if emotion is close to potentially breaking through. Due to how spread out her mask breaching is, to analyze this I need complete context in what she was actually doing in all the situations it was spotted. Therefore I will pursue this by focusing on Toga in normal form up to the point of the end of Season 3 with main focus on answering what she was actually doing during her recruitment into the League of Villains while displaying bizarre behaviors, her vicious treatment of Uraraka and Froppy during the summer training camp, her battle decisions through the rest of the summer training camp incident, and her actions throughout the destruction of Kamino Ward. I now start with her recruitment. In this one, you see that her face had a normal default face as she explained why she wants to join the League of Villains. She basically said she wanted to join the dead hero killer Stain's team to follow his ideology of reforming the hero system through killing off the fame and money-seeking heroes. And she fantasizes about stabbing Stain for her sexual desires she has for him. Since her facial expression did not deviate from the masked facial expression, that meant all that excitement during that speech was fake. And with how extreme her pitch to get recruited there had to be a very big alternate motive to attempt to be recruited with that speech. If the League of Villains was truly a team devoted to reforming the hero society with Stain's ideology, a crazy act like hers would have had her kicked out. So this shows Toga did not believe the League of Villains' lies about Stain's involvement with them. But due to the fact that the League of Villains' main recruitment strategy is to subvert Stain's teaching, there will be two types of people recruited by Shigaraki: the devout followers of Stain and the non-devout people. Her craziness has made them believe she was incapable of seeing the obvious warning signs Shigaraki gave to show he was not in a league with Stain. Therefore, she'd be seen to not be able to reach a conclusion that this team had nothing to do with Stain, so she'd be treated as not a follower of Stain, despite presenting herself as a devout follower of Stain. The devout followers of Stain need constant deception by most of the League of Villains' goals and actions to keep them loyal. A non-devout follower of Stain doesn't need that, therefore Toga being put into the category non-devout follower of Stain had to have the most access she can get at a point of entry into the League of Villains and the highest chance to get more access later on. And with how mentally unstable she made herself look, any complicated or simple sabotage plans would end up due to her extreme level of craziness shown have her not a suspect, as the only thing they would expect from her is a sudden emotional plans at pursuing her desires at the cost of the objectives given to her by the League of Villains, but besides that, the League of Villains wouldn't be looking for anything else. Letting her set up highly complex sabotage plans without any monitoring as they think she's incapable of performing such actions. And if her act was too crazy getting her kicked out, she would because she didn't show on screen her shape-shifting powers, her powers might not have been reported. She could potentially try again as a less crazy form of a non-devout follower of Stain to attempt to gain the same access. After Toga and Dabi concluded their recruitment speeches, Shigaraki had made it clear in response he was annoyed at them, therefore would kill them. You can see Toga's eyes constrict and her mouth crunch up as some type of emotion begins trying to get through the mask. This was a very unexpected outcome for her, as with all the value she had went for, she is facing a potential execution for going too far. She without hesitation immediately goes on offense with her mask intact, therefore more calm as she gets over the shock and goes into this battle scenario. But then suddenly teleportation gates are used by Shigaraki's ally to block everyone's attack. Her with her attack blocked and her arm coming through a teleportation gate that she either doesn't know is dangerous or knows it's a danger that it can sever things if closed from reports from the USJ. She gets stressed again seeing her eyes constrict, showing the mask contorting. As the situation diffused and Shigaraki left with his ally saying they should keep Toga and Dabi, her mask is solidly on as everything seems to be diffused and she can still potentially pursue the position she came for, of being labeled so crazy she can't betray them, so needs no monitoring. For a little while after, she basically says things not as important. She cutely informs the members of the League of Villains about the equipment Shigaraki wants them to take with them in the summer training camp. And with her mask on, hiding most of her face at the summer training camp, she refers to her equipment as not cute in a cute way. Her being the one that got told first about the equipment could be her trying to get the intel quickly. Poking around, therefore got the information first, but since it wasn't really important, she didn't really try to go through the painstaking process of hiding what she knows, which the ones supplying it decided since she already knew about it for her to tell the rest of them, which is a possibility. The next incident is very important, as this is the one that was the most disturbing scenes I have ever seen in a show, and was one of the main reasons I had not been willing to conclude she was actually a hero despite the growing level of evidence of her being disloyal. But as I break down the scene, it becomes clear, despite being clearly able to easily kill Froppy and Uraraka, Toga had decided to instead constantly strategically give Uraraka and Froppy as many possible openings to survive the scenario, using her crazy persona to explain her actions and made it seem she is still loyal, which created some shocking but fortunately deceptive and effective ways for Uraraka and Froppy to survive while Toga maintained her cover. Due to the fact that every single other time the camera had shifted between all the situations in the summer training camp, the current situation was always shown. Which can include the situation with the Nomu approaching because no one at all said the students weren't evading for some time before being caught by the Nomu. And the Nomu wasn't in attack mode as well when they were shown, which means an indeterminate amount of time had to pass before we see them being attacked, which can be a long time with evading. Momo can easily create devices to get away with, which increases that likelihood. This would make it so that the times they switch to Toga near Uraraka and Froppy to also be current, which to most people seems to not been what was intended, as her events seemed very quick, not taking place over a large amount of time. Yet it's shown when more than a half hour needs to go by before the story gets to that point. But that decision to view it as a future event had that presentation of Toga's situation was definitely out of place to the fans of the show, as it is the only one that would be considered a far in the future event. But because the other situations when shown was their current states, I also analyzed Toga's event as a current state, and in the end, viewing it that way made the situation not break and actually make sense if you consider her to be a traitor. Toga, though, clearly could have killed Uraraka and Froppy with knife throwing and ambushing before they can react, especially since Toga spotted Froppy and Uraraka at the beginning of the attack, which had an ongoing training event in which the Class 1B students were figuring out ways to scare the Class 1A students that had two of the ones expecting to be scared, including Uraraka and Froppy. Basically had Uraraka and Froppy expecting something hostile looking to come at them to scare them, as they wouldn't expect the ones coming at them to want to actually kill them, allowing their easy deaths. But instead, even so, she was shown to be tracking them early on when Uraraka and Froppy still didn't know there was an attack. She waited a large amount of time, which so happened when she finally decided to attack. The only large group of heroes that would move through the area ended up moving through the forest during the attack. The likelihood that Toga would not give in to her emotions and stay hidden for so long, potentially a whole hour, due to the fact that one of their team members, Deku, went through almost 2 episodes worth of battling and a lot of traversing the battlefield off screen, which should clock his time on the battlefield to be around an hour, which is why I said she waited for an hour. And had also shown to have been threatening Uraraka and Froppy at the time Mandalay reported to everyone they are authorized to use their powers, which after that Deku went through his second long battle and traversing the battlefield off screen that should have at least taken him around 20 minutes. And when she finally decided to attack, being when the only large group of heroes that will pass through, which she also can't beat, the likelihood is far too low, and there was no reason for those incredible long delays unless she wanted an excuse to leave Uraraka and Froppy alive. Toga is also completely capable of this. She has proven she has extreme stealth skills, almost supernatural level. If anyone could hide from the ones monitoring the new recruits to test loyalties and look for a large group of heroes near isolated victims she can engage to guarantee effective reinforcements will arrive before she kills the isolated victims, Toga is clearly one of the very few that can pull that off. All the rest of them are also not viable. For her to spare them, 2 of them were already engaged in extreme combat. One of them had a whole bunch of unconscious students that are easy to pick off. Uraraka and Froppy were the only ones that were isolated from all potential victims and all distractions so they can focus on her. Before analyzing the situation further, it has been shown that Toga's mouth crunches up and her eyes constrict under the strain of emotions trying to break through her mask. But there could be more signs. Toga needed to keep her emotions of the dire situation down that she is expected to kill the 2 innocent people in front of her, which would obviously strain at her mask that displayed a happy face. So a happy face constantly showing wild emotions would be, by this theory's understanding of her mask, be her mask straining under an unknown emotion that could also be fear and worry. The metal mask being on would also hide some of the signs her mouth may show by her mouth crunching up before. Surely being a new recruit will require monitoring, and she needed a convincing act to maintain her cover, as likely all new recruits, including her, are being monitored during that whole battle. With the situation being so dire as they want her to kill those 2 people, the straining of her happy mask trying to stay on like this would be expected and is shown. Looking at the way Toga approached Uraraka and Froppy, Toga's first action made sure Uraraka and Froppy understood this is real combat and allowed them to fight back at 100% by just grazing Uraraka with a knife. Toga after that bought time as she started a long conversation displaying her fake psychotic desires to the one monitoring her, and the heroes buying time to let the large group of heroes nearby to approach and give herself a good excuse for the delays that will prevent her from killing Uraraka and Froppy. Since Froppy's tongue is a very effective restraining mechanism that she may not be able to escape from, Toga targeted Froppy's tongue early on, damaging it significantly with her knife, which Froppy does verify, saying she can't use it immediately to restrain Toga, as Uraraka had Toga pinned on the ground, which prevented a restraining move that Toga can't escape from. When the heroes did not arrive before Toga would be expected to start attacking, Toga signaled the heroes with a very noticeable and out-of-place joyful yell which alerted everyone in the hero group to something was wrong happening at Toga's location, which was blamed on her psychotic desires with the "I must be your friend because only your friends call you Sue" part as she talked to Froppy. The needle throw as well to Froppy pinning her to a tree by her hair also being non-fatal, and with how powerful Froppy's tongue is, can get herself out easily, does let Froppy take full advantage of Toga unstrategically focusing on Uraraka, giving Froppy openings. Toga's knife, since it caught Uraraka's hair, did go for a very easy to miss small target, the face, with a very small weapon which at attack could have been meant to miss, while looking believable and very deadly. When Uraraka used her skills to restrain Toga when Toga attacked her, Toga completely left many openings, and I do have experience with sword fighting. I know she had devoted too much forward momentum, knocking herself off balance, which is very counterable. Basically, when Toga knew that her psychotic act would warrant attacking, she committed to pulling off an attack with the intentions of letting them win, in a way that won't get her labeled a traitor, by the amount of craziness she was showing explaining her mistakes. Then the large group of heroes made the approach. Toga knew they would be approaching anyway with how much noise she made, so she planned an escape, which she did by freaking out Uraraka enough to have her accidentally release Toga as a hero so happened to appear, startling the freaked out Uraraka. Toga's action to get Uraraka to freak out was very extreme, showing how important to Toga it was to escape, and describing how Uraraka seemed to be in love with someone, and Toga describing how she wants to stab people like her crush Stain, then stabbing Uraraka with a blood-sucking device while saying the suck 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 line. That would make almost anyone lose their iron grasp, restraining the person doing that to them. Right after this, Toga spotted Deku in the group of heroes she lured over that made her retreat. She was unfortunately ordered by Shigaraki to kill Deku if she gets a chance. You see a motion of shock come on her face as she's being faced with another "how do I save them" scenario. Then the distorted mask of happiness was placed back on, as with a more careful look, instead of a glance, it was clear if she attacked she'd be defeated by a large group of heroes, so the villains would not get suspicious if Toga ran away. This did cause a scene that if a person was monitoring her to test her loyalties, would conclude she'd be in love with Deku with how happy she got, with her mask contorting to be put back on, as she stared at Deku. So later on, she lies to everyone, saying this crush does exist, adding another lie to her persona. With how long Deku was on her mind, with Shigaraki wanting her to kill him if she got the chance, her psychotic persona would be expected to have a high chance she'd get attracted to him, which a person monitoring her to test her loyalties would have been convinced by such an act. The next part, Toga had reached the area where the villains were gathering to leave the summer training camp with their intended targets captured. But the heroes Deku, Todoroki, and Choji caught up with them, immediately beginning combat with Dabi, Toga, and Twice, a 3-on-3 battle. In this scenario, Toga would be completely expected to use her extreme skills in combat to start killing the heroes. So she yet again used her crazy persona to keep her cover while protecting the heroes from herself. She knew Choji had the ability to regrow basically everything she could tear out of him with a knife, and can easily regrow limbs to cover important parts like his head. All she needed to do was find an excuse to attack him, since she has shown she attacks people she is attracted to, and Choji is basically quite weird looking. She couldn't just attack Choji directly. This is where Deku came in. Since Toga had already said she was in love with him and Shigaraki made Deku stand out to her by telling her to kill him if she had a chance, Deku would be on her mind and have a high potential her fake persona would get attracted to him. Therefore, out of all 3 potential targets, Deku would be the most likely choice for her persona. He was injured and vulnerable and close by to Choji, which was all known to Choji, so she ran up clearly talking loudly, saying "Hey Izuku, my name is Toga," and launched a needle device that won't harm Deku significantly if it hit, which also makes her really stand out to Choji. She then jumps on this injured Deku and reaches her knife out really pronounced so that everyone can clearly see what she is doing, especially Choji, Instead of several second long sentence, I've been thinking since I saw you that you'd be much cuter if you just bled a little more. I can tell. And waited a few seconds for Choji to assess the situation and run in to save Deku. Then she immediately puts a fake jealous act and says she will cut through Choji to get to her crush Deku. And she basically can't do anything against Choji, therefore she can exit this battle without killing anyone in a non-suspicious way. She's forced this jealous look, obviously didn't actually feel jealous, which is important for a shapeshifter to be able to control their emotions when they are disguised, and have been demonstrated by her taking the persona of Uraraka and the student from Shetsu High. After that, as soon as the teleportation guy says they all should leave, she immediately took advantage and left while cutely saying goodbye to Deku, which would be expected to act. She needs to get out of there to not kill anyone to maintain her cover. She also had to keep a fake crush on Deku's facade to maintain her cover. This sexual attraction she used to save the students will have her displaying extreme sexual harassment toward Deku. With the later on hero licenses exam, where even so it didn't help the villain's objective, and she kept making sexual advances on Deku as that would be expected for her fake persona's extreme amount of sexual interest displayed before, all to make a consistent act to avoid suspicion. Next is during the rescue of Bakugo. Shigaraki has been trying to get Bakugo to join and had decided to release him from his restraints as an act of good faith that was met with a lot of explosions. Toga's facial expression didn't change from a mask during this whole incident. Therefore, she didn't get alarmed by what happened and likely anticipated the violent action, therefore had a plan. You can see she was safely behind a very sturdy bar counter and away from the most characters, making it likely Bakugo will launch the attack on a large group of much more dangerous to him villains, and a shock raise intended for the main threat wouldn't get past the counter protecting Toga. When it was clear that Shigaraki was releasing Bakugo, she went from having her body outstretched on the counter to all on the other side, ready to quickly move behind the counter in anticipation of Bakugo's attack, which came, and she was calm as she dodged it, as her mask did not break during that whole incident. You can see Shigaraki actually trying to act professional when he told everyone to not harm Bakugo, which likely caught her off guard with how incompetent Shigaraki seemed to be when she first met him. And the potential of dealing with Bakugo had her become more angry could be Shigaraki's incompetence letting him loose, or the uncertainty of this upcoming battle, as she knows with the amount of power Bakugo gives off despite her cover is going to be a problem, and it's all Shigaraki's fault. But when knocked on the door saying pizza delivery, she as a double agent knew something was very wrong, as no one would have been that disrespectful as Shigaraki with how intolerant he is of disruptive behavior, which is literally tried to kill Toga and Dabi the first time they met due to how they introduced themselves. This type of behavior from Shigaraki basically makes it an ally wouldn't do that from her experience. So it would more likely be a large force of heroes that will not mess around due to the amount of power the League of Villains had shown off before. You see the emotions flood out of her face in shock. Then the attack happened. At that point, with the battle that had the sudden destruction of a large part of the city, Kamino Ward, Toga had shown a constant level of fear and unease. But only at one point did she get composure back and her mask was placed back on with a much calmer state. This is going to be very consequential. When she had calmed down was the point All For One, who destroyed that section of the city, told her that after she and the rest of the League of Villains recaptured Bakugo, he would send them to safety. Then she calmed down, got focused, and tried her best. Looking at what we know of the mask, with this picture of several screenshots shows us a happy expression contorting in disturbing ways due to emotions underneath her mask as she strikes at Bakugo. But those actual emotions never broke through, as it just contorted the happy face, so we don't know what they are. It could be her being scared and related emotions, but she is trying to desperately hold it back and put her established love to attack persona she puts on before. These actions look convincingly genuine, but they perfectly follow what was said of Toga's mask's weakness, therefore these emotions are not genuine. When the heroes taunted them and made their approach, she was stressed. When she couldn't slip away into the hero's ranks due to being restrained, she was distressed. When she faced the reality, her persona Toga, the Psychokiller, was being held responsible for aiding the monster All For One who killed likely thousands less than a minute ago, she was distressed. when it was obvious if she changed to a victim, she'd be killed by the shockwaves of this battle between these two overpowered villain and superhero, so she couldn't slip away from the fight, she was distressed. When she was told All For One will help her escape after she recaptured Bakugo, she was calm. When she failed the objective that he told her he will let her escape if she does, she felt distressed. That indicates the group she is part of would not have been able to help her escape, as she worked hard and was confident when told All For One will save her. But when that wasn't certain, she was distressed. This makes sense with what we have been found out about this group she is in. The group she is in is obviously completely not allowed to operate, as no official group would have secretly reached out to her and have her disappear, creating a very large search for the missing teenage Toga. A clearly illegal group by how it operates in recruiting Toga, but what specific group this is unknown. When she was being used as an important component of the League of Villains' escape by a combination of quirks forcefully activating, she was distressed. This shows likely she didn't want the League of Villains to continue after such horrible things had happened, yet she was forcefully used as a critical component in their escape. Her being very distressed after this incident also shows how the amount of guilt she can't hold back with the death toll she contributed to by her involvement with the League of Villains. But for some reason she continued her involvement with the League of Villains while seeming to be loyal on the surface. But the reason she did this was likely in response to All For One's mistake while he was gloating about his powers in a public setting. During that fight, All For One revealed to many that he has the ability to transfer quirks, and gloated by about 20 quirks he placed inside himself with very little adverse effects. Well, how superpowers are so new, and now this guy has revealed he can move powers between people with the ability to make the power to level a city and do insane amounts of other things, like potentially combo with several healing quirks for eternal life, combination to tap into those magic-like abilities in many new ways, and basically the possibilities are endless. With the value being so high, it was completely unmeasurable. Toga learning this, bringing this information with her to whoever she is working for, would of course, despite the horrors that just happened, would be given the greedy order, maintain your cover, secure that power. As All For One was saying, he was going to transfer it to Shigaraki. This motive to infiltrate the League of Villains will likely be a motive for many infiltrators. But Toga did put herself into a much stronger position with her extra layers of making them believe she is mentally incapable of trying to betray or plan anything for stealing All For One. And especially they didn't suspect there to be a very intricate and large force behind her, which she likely has some indeterminate large force backing her up, indicated by her unusual amount of skills. With Shigaraki making many mistakes, it is very likely whenever All For One tries to give his power to Shigaraki, someone considered an ally would try to intercept it. Toga has likely plenty of resources, absolutely no surveillance, the full trust of the League of Villains, and both joined and set up her resources before it became publicly known quirks can be transferred, which all new recruits will be put under extreme suspicion due to the extreme value placed on infiltrating the League of Villains' reward of stealing ultimate power. The old recruits, including Toga, will not be under the same amount of suspicion, as he had no reasonable way to know when they joined, and to set Toga apart from every one of the old recruits. She had convinced them she has no mental capability to set anything up to take All For One, which places her as a top contender in double agents trying to steal All For One, and she can set anything up by completely bypassing the defenses with the trust she earned. There are many groups out there that are obviously going to pursue this as well, and I have found strong evidence characters are moving in on the League of Villains and All For One with that purpose of stealing ultimate power from them. At that point, Toga seemed for the rest of the Season 3, which is a point I am currently up to, she is willing to perform her objectives, though she was asked to do was not nearly as extreme compared to what happened before. And glimpses of the information from the manga do show her still loyal, completing tasks waiting for the time All For One will be able to be stolen. With the amount of pieces of Toga's story analyzed, we can now combine all the pieces together to get a complete picture of who Toga actually is. This is a one according to my research takes into account everything and likely the right one. Before Toga joined that legal group, Toga had been growing up in an environment that her family and friends loved her and tried to support her. She showed she can easily be a productive member of society, as she was very popular and easily met or surpassed any of society's expectations of her. But there was a serious problem. Her quirk that had a blood-drinking focus had created a natural innate urge to drink blood. When her parents found out, they completely made her stop that behavior, but instead of it going away, it didn't. And like when you try to completely stop an animal from fulfilling one of its natural tendencies, such as it prefers open spaces, but you keep it in a confined space, it will freak out. Toga freaked out, but with all the focus of her parents to suppress that part of herself, she was able to keep it from showing itself, but the pain was immense. This was technically illegal and unethical what the parents were doing. It had been clear that there are plenty of kids that have been mentally altered by the quirks and require certain adjustments to their interaction with their environment to be productive members of society. But the shockingness of blood drinking being what Toga has got, had the parents decided to not seek out those resources and just hide the problem, hoping it will go away, which seemed to have worked, the suppression of Toga's blood drinking behavior had those side effects of her quirk not appear externally anymore, while it secretly tortured her internally. Toga is a child. Children most of the time don't understand that there are many other options in their lives, and generally need guidance to see these options. But if the parents actually decide the child will not try those resources, with the parents being the main authority figure in the children's lives, will likely decrease the chance the child spots those other options to around 0%. Which was the case for Toga. But those resources were there the whole time for Toga. Then that illegal group spotted that Toga had an incredible power and decided to try and reach out to her. During their time interacting and researching Toga, it had become clear to them that this suppression of blood drinking existed and it was causing constant pain for Toga, and he took advantage of this. Instead of showing Toga their society's resources, the group instead became that resource and got Toga to finally feel relief from the blood drinking suppression that had tortured Toga throughout her life. For that child Toga, it was one of the most wonderful changes to her life. But it was not a good change, as they took advantage of her and indoctrinated her into the group as they took the form of what she needed, and Toga was offered continued help through joining them, which his deceived child gladly decided to. While at times society could have offered the same things, but she just didn't know. While Toga was exploring the blood-drinking aspects of herself through this illegal group, it had created mental confusion that suddenly had her attack a fellow student, Saito, who she saw bleeding after a fight. If society were able to get to her, then they would have identified why it happened due to her quirk's blood drinking, and she committed a blood drinking crime, which would have had them pursue the question, could this be a side effect of a quirk that wasn't addressed, and then they would be told this behavior was clearly spotted before then suppressed, making them conclude it was a side effect of a quirk that should have been addressed with counseling. Well before this incident, and then society would have helped her in letting Toga rejoin society with little consequences. Then blame it all on her parents for the unethical suppression of needed to be addressed side effects of Toga's quirk. But instead, the group Toga was in took her away and comforted her during this turbulent period in her life, and she grew closer to them. And at that point, that group had Toga all to themselves. For likely around a year or more, then they actively indoctrinated and trained Toga, and when they sent her out to the League of Villains on a mission to infiltrate that group, they not only set up a psycho persona for her to show the League of Villains to make them believe she needs no monitoring, as she is too crazy and loyal to ever even consider attempting to backstab them, let alone set up highly complex plans, therefore making Toga able to do anything this group wants. This persona actively destroyed her bridges to re-enter society by having her take credit for a psychokiller that drinks blood and actively shows extreme behavior as part of the act as a double agent, which made it so society wouldn't accept Toga back, making that group not only her family, but the only possible friend she can have. During the burning of those bridges to society, Toga did not take what she was told to do well, and she was scared and disturbed by the things she did. Her distress shown when she killed a blood-drinking psychokiller shown by her body pose was the same as when she faced thousands dead in Kamino ward by the League of Villains, and her facing capture with punishment for the crime she falsely took credit for, with the only difference her mask was on when she was killed the killer. The stress at facing the possibility of needing to kill the innocent people fought by Uraraka and Deku, with the fluctuation of mass holding back the fear she had, and the distress shown in the fluctuation of mass when dealing with the sudden outbursts and disturbing orders from the psycho leader of the League of Villains. It showed that she was scared and distressed, but that group had become a family. They had given her what she needed and had spent so long indoctrinating her. So this scared child was successfully tricked into this screwed-up infiltrating mission. When this group learned that this power all for one can be stolen from the League of Villains, and with the position Toga had gotten prior by following her group's very strategic plans, which had made Toga be able to bypass all the forms of surveillance by the League of Villains due to she tricked them into thinking she's blindly loyal and can't plan against them. That illegal group Toga is secretly a part of knows they could set up almost anything in League of Villains through Toga, so they had Toga pursue that incredible power, which he willingly did. Due to the fact Toga can copy quirks, and the power they are trying to steal is for the ability to transfer and have multiple quirks, her quirk will be obviously used to accurately simulate copies of test subjects for the research into the abilities to combine quirks together. And with the report I saw that Toga went out of her way to care for Twice, who can literally make copies of test subjects with their clones, maintaining the quirks makes them extremely valuable to research. By care for him, I mean Twice does have a mental problem that he is able to feel calm when he has a mask on, which Toga helped him make him a makeshift mask during an incident which he couldn't use his original mask, which makes him the only one she has gone out of her way to care for. But this is not the only one she went for. That really proves that she is trying to recruit the ones that are valuable. Because during the hero licensing exam, she actively began recruiting Deku. During the battle with All For One and All Might, which had about a half amount of witnesses left around, All For One did say that Deku is the one that All Might gave One For All to, and that One For All was created through All For One, which made Deku's high value into research into quirks being transferred known. After that, Shigaraki sent every one of his recruits to split up and be on their own for a while, but then Toga, according to reports I read, without any order from Shigaraki, kidnapped and took the place of Kami from Tetsu High during the hero licensing exam, and tracked down Deku. During that time, Toga opened up to Deku. She, through actions and explaining, showed him her advanced training in this group's extreme skills. Their value to Deku, and with the treatment of him through their sexual advances, showed him the true lengths his group is willing to go to complete objectives while keeping innocents alive. Which only reason she had managed to keep from killing all those people, including Deku, during the Jumbo Training camp attack was due to her act of a fake sexual attraction to Deku and others, which she showed off to him not as an attack, but to thoroughly as possible show off their skills and length they are willing to go to without telling him this group exists. She had made sure once Deku realizes this group exists and as Toga is a recruit, Deku will be able to use this information he was shown at the hero license exam to determine this secret illegal group is highly skilled, extremely competent, and of extreme value to Deku by their infiltrating position through Toga of the League of Villains, which Deku will easily find in line with his values and be very valuable to him. This can easily be shown. Besides, Deku has already shown extreme fascination with the skills Toga had told him about. Deku, just like Toga when faced with villains, actively breaks the rules to kill the villains, and illegally uses his powers to complete whatever objectives he wants. You can see by some time after he was told there will be a cover-up to protect him, Todoroki and Ida, after they killed the hero killer Stain, Deku soon after again in the summer training camp attack disobeys a direct order to head to a safe area for a group he could avoid combat with to instead pick up the child Koda. And Deku actively tried to kill the villain who got in his way, and then within a few days tries to rescue Bakugo, which would be obviously if they even got close to Bakugo they would have to fight and kill their way through. Only later on, the last members joining them established the rule they will avoid combat, and during this rescue the only possible way to save Bakugo was by avoiding combat, which changed this go on the offense strategy that didn't care that society said no. Just like Toga's group, completing objectives not caring what society says no to, and killing villains without a trial. With the incredible infiltrated position where they can get anything Deku could want from the League of Villains and teach him incredible skills, it's obvious Deku will be very interested in not only working with them, but to join them long term. Even so, there have been a great deal of efforts to protect innocent people from being killed and trying to recruit good people like Deku who protects innocents. These efforts might not reflect the group Toga is a part of, as Toga may have decided to do it on her own, with how much it has been shown to distress Toga being in positions where innocent people could die. And everything that was done to protect those innocent people was only done directly through Toga, therefore she may have decided to do it on her own while a group may have not minded the deaths. So how ruthless this group is, therefore what they will be willing to do to this indoctrinated scared child for this research is unknown. All that is known about this group is that it is very skilled, led very competently, very powerful, very ruthless, actively is pursuing the quirk, all for one for research purposes, recruiting anyone that can help that research, and a group that is the most likely to steal All for One with a complete bypassing of all defenses around All for One's intended inheritor, Shigaraki. There was a vast amount of hidden information within the first 3 seasons of My Hero Academia, which had me spend months to find out what I have now. But with how much time it took me, had me decide to just stick to this data rather than going thoroughly through the manga for this. But with how much this group is trying to put themselves into such a strong infiltrated position in a League of Villains, they have likely made themselves visible by now in the manga that is far ahead of the anime while hiding all signs they are connected to Toga, which me not going through the manga made me miss it. I would like to hear your thoughts on who do you think this group is, what really are their moral standards which could answer are they villains or vigilante heroes, and how well are their plans going? Comment below, I would love to hear your theories on this. That seems to be all the information stored here, so I'll end my video here. My other video, Dabi is a traitor theory, combined with this theory has both Toga and Dabi being double agents being brought in by the same guy, which means that he is also disloyal or his organization is compromised. Either way, whichever the reason is, this is really bad for the League of Villains. And this guy is one of the main suppliers of recruits for Shigaraki. To make this much worse for the League of Villains, my theory states Dabi is working with Gran Torino and related agencies that were planning on getting him out of jail as they captured the League of Villains. Since Toga showed during that incident she was part of a completely different unrelated agencies that doesn't have that power, meaning already multiple different agencies are infiltrating the League of Villains. You can verify that by checking my first My Hero Academia video, Dabi is a traitor theory. This has been a Deer Runner, the runner of Deer. Thanks for watching.